What is up, everybody? It's Brian over at Valkerion Gaming, and we're gonna make another First Descendant video. Today's video is gonna be our 1 month check-in that I said I wanted to do when I made the review for the game originally 1 month ago. So how has the game been doing? What have I been doing in the game? Am I still enjoying it? Are other people still enjoying it? How's the devs handling all the complaints and all the positivity that the game's been getting, so on and so forth. Anyway, this is that 1 month check-in video, so let's jump into it right now. To kick things off, let's talk about what I've been doing in the game so far. In the first month, I of course have finished the main story. I've gotten through quite a lot of the optional hard mode bosses and content. I don't have everything unlocked. I don't have all of the craziest mods. I don't have all the craziest builds set up. I don't have all the craziest costumes and whatnot. I've been pure free to play, stick to my guns and convictions and not spend any money to just get the rawest experience possible for the First Descendant. But how has it been for me? And just in a few simple words, it's been pretty good. I've been enjoying myself, so much so that I can't really put this game down. Every time I jump into it, I get locked in for whatever my play session is going to be. I'm well over 120 hours within the first month, and I don't know if I'll stop playing. Actually, I do think I'll eventually start slowing down, but at the moment, I keep finding things I want to grind for, I want to proceed with, or things I want to try to see the next level of, or try to get better, try to get more efficient. Sometimes I just jump in and go into like some of the early game missions and just kind of help people progress through them with things like some of the harder bosses like Pyromaniac. I always want to call him Pyromancer. It's Pyromaniac, and some of the other stuff that just kind of it becomes hard progression blocks for a lot of the player base. So I've been enjoying putting myself in the game and playing the game and whatnot. So far, I've unlocked 10 characters. There is a 10 character limit in the game by default. Once you get 10 characters, they want you at this point in the game's life to pay money to unlock character slots, which is an insane choice to me. I didn't realize that the game was going to do that. Like, I knew there was a character slot that is purchasable, but I didn't really know what it was for, because other games like Warframe, they have character slots, but it doesn't seem like you ever have to buy them. At least I never did in like the 2,000 hours I played of Warframe back in the day. I never had to buy a character slot. They were just kind of always given to me as I unlocked characters. So it's pretty crazy to see that is paywalled here in the First Descendant. Like I said, so far it hasn't been too much of a hassle because I've unlocked 10 different characters. They are all very different from each other. I only have one ultimate character, and I don't have that default version of the character, so it didn't factor into my decisions to not buy another character slot so far. But yeah, knowing that I'm at that limit now, it is kind of one of a few negative points I have with the game. But this is more about just what I've been enjoying. So I unlocked the character I was first attracted to grinding for, and that is SMO, and no lie, took quite a lot of effort to get that character. He has really low drop rates. He has drop rates that are similar to an ultimate character for some reason. And yeah, when I beat the story mode, got into hard mode, and kind of was faced with the wall of progression that comes at that point, which is basically turning into the real game, I tried to lock in and focus on SMO and unlocking the character I wanted to try, and boy oh boy, things got dark for like a week there. Like the game's drop rates and RNG systems were so brutal at that time that it really put a big damper on the game for me personally for quite a while, at least for that first week. But I kind of took a step back and realized, hey, I'm unlocking other equipment. I'm unlocking other character parts. Yes, it sucks I'm not getting the one part I'm looking for, but there's so many things on the drop tables in every area that it's just like, well, technically, even if you're not looking for something specific, you're almost always progressing on something else. And I think that's a really interesting thing to realize and a good thing to realize. But yeah, it got pretty dark when I was trying to target farm SMO, and eventually I finally got the character unlocked. But in that like a week and a half or so that I was hardcore farming for SMO, I ended up unlocking like 4 other characters. I ended up unlocking Ultimate Lepic, which was the last character I unlocked. I got Visa, got Blair, got a few others, and so on and so forth. Valby, all of those characters were unlocked for me while just trying to grind for SMO. I think Vesa is the only one I target farmed, so I can get like some resources, and that just kind of bleeds into what I want to say about some of the progression in the game is just a little too slow, a little too gated, and in the good way, the game's developers have been patching to address these things based on community feedback and people saying like, hey, it's taking way too long to grind for these void shards, so what can you do about this game? And the devs made a hot fix and they sent it out pretty quickly, and they said, hey, we agree that everyone's complaining about this, so we're actually going to dial up the rate that you can get these items. Here you go, everybody, enjoy. And then the devs were also like, hey, this mission type, the timer on it is 5 minutes. We agree that that's a little too much, so they reduced it to 1 minute. And that's just kind of been one of the good things about playing the First Descendant in the first month, is like the dev team has been really responsive and really feedback focused and in how they're changing the game. And this is a free-to-play free-to-play net ease, not a net ease, Nexon, sorry. I was watching Marvel Rivals earlier. It is a free-to-play Nexon game, and to see them being like, hey, we agree that the grind is too much, we're gonna try to alleviate some of this for our players and keep them engaged, interested, and just kind of make good choices based on what everyone who's playing the game is saying. So that has been a really good part of the game so far, just having those constant lines of communication from the dev team and having them say, hey, we agree with you guys, please keep the feedback coming. And on that note, we got the first major patch to the game, which introduced 2 new characters, technically 1 new character and 1 ultimate character. We got Luna and Ultimate Valby. They're both very interesting because Valby is seemingly a favorite character of a lot of people just immediately. She's quite strong in the game and all that good stuff too. And then we got Luna, who is a rhythm-based character, and a lot of people were really excited for her, but then when they played her, it seemed like a lot of people said, oh, wow, this seems like a little too complicated. So in a good way, I think that's really interesting that they introduced a character who's quite different from everyone else, but also just kind of showing off how much variety and potential for variety that there is in this game. So I think that's a good point. So I also wanted to talk about the just kind of imbalanced nature of the First Descendant and how it's kind of one of many pain points that the game has. And when I say it's unbalanced, I don't mean like PvP, because this game doesn't have PvP. I just mean the very scattershot balance of everything in the game, from characters to weapons to enemies, the missions, everything. For example, the character Bunny is a very easily obtained character. You get her from a story mission, and everyone uses her because she's one of the best characters in the game. She has one of the best farming abilities. She's really quick, she scales really well, she really emphasizes character building into a character archetype and having her be really good at that thing. But other characters don't have that level of feel good progression when you're like really just going all in on a build and the abilities really complement it. And I can say that because I'm playing SMO, who's easily the worst character in the game. His abilities aren't great. 2 of them are basically the same thing. His ultimate ability sucks. It's really long, it has a really long animation. it looks really cool when it goes off because it's a giant explosion, but you can also be knocked out of it easily. And then there's Bunny, whose abilities don't stop when she gets knocked down. It's just like, why is there that level of inconsistency? Especially considering how difficult it is to get SMO. And then there are just like other characters that are just kind of slept on, but then the community has been slowly realizing that some of these characters are really, really good, like Vesa and Valby and Lepic. They all are just like really beefy monster characters if you just really build in for specific things. But then there are, like I said, just characters like SMO who are just way undertuned. There's Blair, just also really undertuned. Just like their kits don't really match what, not just what the game has evolved into, but what just kind of feels like what their archetype is supposed to be in the game. They just don't feel like they're like, it just doesn't feel like they thought out their play kits and how their abilities work and what they're supposed to be doing. But then there's also the weapons. The weapons feel really good overall, but once again very inconsistent once you get into like the legendary weapons. Some of them are crazy strong, like the Thunder Cage and the Tamer and the Enduring Legacy and whatnot. It's really strong weapons, and then there's others that are just like, what is it, Nezara's Protector or whatever that pistol is. I think it like gives you a shield. Shields are terrible in this game, and you have to aim it at your friend instead of the enemy, and it's just like, why would I? Why would I use this over anything else? And then there is the mission types too. The mission types too are just really unbalanced. Some of the enemies that come with the missions are just insane. Like some of them have these like invincibility balloons that pop up, and they're really annoying to destroy. Those have been adjusted a little bit, but they're still like, they clip into the walls still. Some of them just have insane HP. They have like invincibility phases. It's just like, they just feel really unbalanced for either solo play or just group play, because some things don't scale for group play and some do. Like the Colossi scale for group play, but the Void Reactor bosses don't. So it's just like, this is either going to take me 5 minutes or it's going to take me 5 seconds. So so it's an inconsistent experience so far, and there's no like indicators of how different certain things are going to be. Like it's just, yeah, you just never know until you get in there and you try stuff. So there is inconsistency in that. And then there's just like the drop table as well. The drop table is really inconsistent too. Some legendary items and character parts just like, they show up in so many places that it doesn't make sense. And then there are others where maybe they just want them to be a little bit more rare, which is fine. But others, some weapons and items just show up so much that it just kind of blows your mind a little bit. And then there's just things like the stealth missions, because I think I mentioned in the review, this game has really bad tutorialization. And one of the things that was discovered very early on in the game's first month was that the character Sharon is basically the only character who can do the I forget what they're called, the stealth, like information gathering missions, whatever, that exist in the world map. She's basically the only character who can do them completely, where you can hack the computers and you get a chance at double or triple rewards. And there's no indicator, no real good tutorial that explains that. And that's how it works. So a lot of people were doing it the wrong way for a long time. I was like, wait, how do you get this specific item? It's like, well, you have to use this specific character, and you have to get her to have lots of ability duration, and then you can get it. And it's just like, you didn't really explain all of this, because this is very specific and something that needs to be done a particular way, and they just don't explain it. So yeah, there's just weird information gaps, weird stuff like that. And then there's also the drop tables and the kind of, not drop tables, but the RNG on RNG on RNG. For example, the character Sharon I was just talking about, where you can do the missions to get double and triple rewards. That's how you get something called amorphous materials for the world bosses, or in-game, in-map bosses, not like instant instanced dungeons or Colossus battles. So if you go for those, you can do that mission. If you do it perfectly, you get a 25% chance of getting like the amorphous material, which is basically your key. And then you have to farm up the things that start the battle, which is another separate resource. So you have to grind out the resource to open the vault. Then you have to grind the resource to you have to grind for the key, which has a 20% drop rate, so you might not get it, and you might just be standing there doing it over and over and over and over. And then once you actually get to the boss fight and you defeat the boss and its chest appears, then you have another RNG table to deal with trying to get the item that you want. So it's just an overly complicated RNG on RNG thing, and thankfully there may be a change for that coming, but that's just a pain point, or all of those are just pain points in the game at the moment, and I think some of these are going to be addressed fairly soon-ish, hopefully, and others seem to be pain points that the devs have noted and said, you know what, we're going to take another look at this in the future, so please hang it tight. But let's talk about some of the positive stuff other than that. So yeah, I think the First Descendant is in a good spot, I would say. Like I said, I have quite a list of pain points with the game at the moment, and I think a lot of these aren't that surprising. They're kind of pain points that lots of free-to-play looter shooters have at the beginning as they kind of readjust things and kind of understand where the community limits are and where the developers' limits are, and as everyone kind of dances around at the moment and kind of tries to see how far they can push each other before there's push back. At the moment, I think the First Descendant is in a good place purely because of how reactive and active the developer team has been with patching things and readjusting things based on player feedback. Obviously, this is a game that has to make money eventually, and so I think there's some things that won't change, like some of the grind won't change, some of the not just grind, but just how things progress and whatnot, and kind of the timing that is needed to progress things. I think they've thought about it, and I think we need to be accepting that this is a free-to-play game and not one that we paid for immediately. So I don't expect the grind to disappear in like 2 patches or anything, but I do hope that the game just kind of understands like some of the missions kind of suck to keep doing on repeat. It's the RNG, having double and triple RNG just for a chance at an item that you want is pretty ridiculous. So these are all things that the developers have openly said, hey, we want to rethink these things as well. Like I said, the game got its first major patch, and that introduced 2 characters, but it also had lots of bug fixes and just fixes based on community feedback. And one of the other things that was mentioned is like, hey, we want to rework some of the mission progression and some of the item RNG-ness in the future. It won't be coming like in the next hot fix or anything, but it will be coming in the future based on community feedback. We're thinking about it, we're working on solutions, and you're trying to find that middle ground. So I think that level of response from the developers has been probably one of the most positive points about the game experience so far. But also the game itself is just fun, and it feels good to progress and unlock your character's potential and your weapon's potential and all that good stuff. It is a little bit heavy on the monotonous side when you're like really locked in on grinding certain missions and whatnot, just because they're the most efficient to do certain things, but that doesn't mean that it's the only way to do things. And I think that's another thing I appreciate about the game. There's lots of missions that people just farm over and over for resources or the thing that they're looking for, and they just want to get it the best way. And then there's just like, well, of course this is like boring if you just keep doing it like 15 times in a row, instead of just like going around the map and doing like multiple different missions and whatnot to kind of spice it up. So that is something that I like about the game, is that you can progress at your own pace and you can progress in your own way, but there's also very efficient ways to do things, and like there's no no, there's no major pushback from the developers to say, hey, don't farm this mission for like 5 hours straight and get like the gold cap or whatever people are doing. I don't know. The developers themselves have been leaning in on the kind of community that is growing around the game. But another thing I want to talk about is the player count. I think the player counts are very healthy. It does seem like they've kind of smoothed out a bit from the peak of the first like week or two of launch. But also I think they just kind of spread out people like in the hubs and whatnot, just kind of trying to spare people's performance by making them a little more balanced out in that way. But yeah, I think the First Descendant is going strong in its first month. I think the potential for the future is very good. I hope they keep this pace of very positive feedback from the community and accepting that some changes are needed and saying, hey, some of this stuff we don't want to change. I'm very curious to see where this game goes, how they will proceed with like adding extra content, because at the moment we've just gotten 2 characters, but they have said, oh, and we got a new boss, but they've also said some other things are going to be coming in the future as well. Some of these will be coming with the first official season and first and second official seasons, because right now we're technically in the pre-season. Maybe that's why the battle pass is so bad, but we'll see how things progress. And oh yeah, we should, I guess, mention the monetization. The monetization in the game is pretty hardcore. It is once again a premium currency game, and I mentioned this in the review. So far we've just gotten extra costumes and stuff, and the costumes themselves are quite expensive, but there is something I noticed. If you unlock a character in like one of the bundles, or like yeah, like any of the bundles, like for example I have Ultimate Lepic, anything that has Ultimate Lepic in it now has a discount, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, and that's really convenient, and that's really nice. So that doesn't mean it's worth it, and that doesn't mean the premium currency isn't overly expensive, because it is, but I think it's just a nice little caveat to things. So we'll see how the First Descendant fares within the first few months. At the moment, the first month has been pretty positive. I've been enjoying it. I like just kind of jumping in and finding a new goal or a new item to grind for and just kind of going for it. From now, I don't know when or if the community will find the limit and start to like kind of slow down with their progression, because everyone's kind of going very hardcore at the moment. But we'll see about that in the future. Anyway, I've been Brian at Valkerion Gaming, and I can't think of anything else really to say about this game because it's pretty late at night and I'm a little tired, but I tried to say what I had to say about this game. It's going strong. It has a really good community around it. The players are quite helpful. If you just look up information on the game, you can find it pretty easily. So far, so good. We got bikini costumes in the summer pack, so if you like caked up Korean booty girls, then the game's gotcha. And yeah, it's been a free-to-play game, but a free-to-play game with some nice, once again, potential. Anyway, I've been Brian at Valkerion Gaming. I can't think of anything else to say, so I'm just gonna end it here. Please like, sub, hit the bell for notifications, and leave a comment down below. How has the first month of the First Descendant been treating you? Have you been enjoying it? Have you been hating it? Have you noticed any problems? Are you enjoying the patching or the feedback from the developers? Like, what has your experience been? Let me know down below, and hope to see you again here next time, and be nice to each other. It's a good thing. Peace out.